Let us see what standard requires for release of product and services. The standard 8.6 release of products and services. This is how you ensure that only acceptable product which fully met the requirement could be organization's own requirement or customer requirement. For example, when I was working in an automobile company, we used to have a checklist, a card that moves with the car itself, right from the body shop, goes to the paint shop, comes to BTA, body trim assembly, goes to car line, comes to final view testing, and it goes from the final view. So at every stage, what all inspections and verifications are done are ticked by the respective station inspectors. And when it comes to the final stage, I used to look at whether all the stages have been inspected right and is there evidence that every place it is ticked. And then you have a look at the finished products, the final car, look at the operational part of it, whether everything is there intact. So there is a checklist, you take all of them, verify all of them, drive the car, test whether everything is fine, and then you release the product with a tag, OK tag. That shows the vehicle has been fully met internal requirement of the organization. Now, sometime, for example, a pressure vessel which is made for a particular customer against their order. So how things are done in that case? This is done against a different requirement. In that case, possibly a third-party inspection company may be involved. Client's inspection persons can be involved, or inspector from the manufacturing plant or the coded shop will be involved. So the code shop independent inspection department does the inspection. Then they call the third party inspection agency. Then customer can come and witness some part of it. And by doing that, they make sure technical specification has been fully in compliance. Sometimes code ASME inspectors normally come for coded stamp vessel where U stamp, U1, U2 stamps are used. So the ASME authorized inspectors are also coming and checking from the code compliance point of view. So the whole idea is the product must meet full requirement of the customer or the product requirement identified by the company. So what is required? Implement planned arrangement at appropriate stage to verify products and service requirements have been met. So sometime we use something called an inspection and test plan for some products. The way I talked about a tracking card that moves along with the car is ticked. That's kind of a checklist. So in pressure vessel, in pipe manufacturing plant and so on, normally what happens, or heat exchangers or a complete product, which is complex product, there you have stage wise inspection. For example, valves. So you perform material inspection, you do machining, dimensional inspection, you possibly check stress relieving when it is applicable, non-destructive testing, possibly hydrostatic test, and then final performance test, painting and all that, and then packaging. So all those things are part of final inspection or part of stage inspection and final inspection. The idea is implement planned arrangement at appropriate stage to verify product and service requirement have been fully met. Release of products and services to customers shall not proceed until the plan arrangement satisfactorily completed. Of course, unless otherwise approved by relevant authority and as applicable by customer. Let me give an example. It is expected that all inspection that is required for the product is completed satisfactorily before it goes to the customer. So everything is fine. Now, there may be some situations. Let me give a very typical example. For example, pipes. There are certain tests conducted which takes longer time. For example, HIC, SSC, those kind of tests takes much longer time, around 28 days. So when this test is done, customer can require the material very urgently for their project. Now, for this time, which the material will be stuck up for example, in China, and the transportation will take 1 month time. So customer says, okay, are you confident? They ask the manufacturer, are you confident that the material will pass the SSC test, HIC test? The manufacturer confident because they're the original billet manufacturer. They control the steel making process. So they are certain that it's a formality. There is no chance that the material will fail. And the customer says, okay, we'll take that risk because we don't want to waste 1 month time. So you send the material now. So by the time material arrives within 30 days, the test is done and the test result comes, which is also inspected by a third party or the client representative or whoever is responsible. So you save that time. So the material moved before all tests were done. So it was done with concession approved by the customer. And such kind of release of product and services, including conditional release, has to be maintained as documented information. So release of product and services needs to be retained as documented information. For example, a car is serviced, car servicing is done. So whether all the requested services have been done is checked by maybe the service engineer. Release the car after the servicing that you needed engine oil replacement, spark plug replacement, alternator replacement, and whatever work, upholstery cleaning, the thorough cleaning, polishing, everything has been done as agreed, and all these things are checked, and the vehicle goes to the customer. So the whole idea is whatever required, whatever is requirement with regard to the products and services have been completed by authorized person. Anyone cannot accept, go and sign. There is a need for authorized person only to be involved in the process of inspection, verification, and release of the product, and they are authorized to do so. So therefore, sometime customer, sometime authorized inspector, sometime customers authorized representative, sometimes the independent inspection team within the organization can release the product. So those things are matter of agreement. This is how the whole thing is done. Now, let us do an exercise. So inspection and release is a process. So you have to do certain activity and you need some inputs, right? And those activities will be done and the inspection out and the process will result into an output and there will be some kind of controls. Let us see how in real life, these are the suggestions. You just think of what kind of inputs you need, what kind of, where you get those inputs from, what activities will be done, what outputs will be, coming out of the process, and who receives the product. I'll give an example of some inspection that has happened in a manufacturing plant in Goa today by one of our engineer, and I was following this up, and that was the control. Now I will explain, give this example how this has been done. For example, agreed requirement is coming with the contract. So the customer told he will do 10% random sample inspection. These are the orifice plates, and they have given the purchase order and inspection test plan and the client specification. So these are the requirement which has been agreed. Now, the service manual sometimes could be a requirement. In this particular case, we have referred the drawings and the material specification which appears in the purchase order. Now, the completed service record is completed inspection record. We have received already an inspection report that this inspection has been done by the inspector from our Goa office. Now, list of the services, whatever inspection is required or whatever service is required is input. Otherwise, they will not know. For us, this is coming from an inspection and test plan that will tell you what all will be done. For example, dimensional inspection, material test certification, surface finish, and all those things, orientation, compliance to the drawing is latest or not, all those kind of things. And then they have done an inspection, they have done a verification, they have done a measurement, things like that. So these inspections were done, verifications were done, and testings were also done. And the output is a released car, that we are talking about a release of a car from service station. So in this particular case, the orifice plates, which were inspected by our engineer, is the released item, and it goes to the customer. And what was the control? I was monitoring, I was looking at the report and whether the inspector has completed all the inspection that is required in accordance with the technical specification, in accordance with the frequency and the sampling size that was agreed with the customer. And finally, once we have given and reviewed the report and approved the release, the item has been released and customer is happy. In the morning, the inspection was done in Goa. In the evening, we have got the report and this has already been sent to the customer. Now the material will move from the supplier and by tomorrow, so within a day or two, they'll be air freighted. This will come. So this is how products are released. So before we have authorized the inspector, I've looked at his competence. I've looked at his job specific competence. We have briefed the requirement and authorized him to act on our behalf. And then he did the inspection under our authorization. And we got authorization from our client, and our client got authorization from the end user, which in this case is KOC, who has accepted our inspection on behalf of their supplier, which is our customer, Apex. This is how the whole process really works. I hope the process is very well understood. We can give a lot of examples from service industry. For example, banking. If you go to a bank, for example, I'm giving examples from engineering industry. If you are in a bank issues you a draft. So the draft is their finished product. So the draft, when they issue the draft, it is their product. Someone looks at that this is the exact amount of the draft you wanted. Your name is correct. Addressee for whom the draft has been issued is indeed correct. There is no spelling mistake. The date is correct. The signatories are correct. And finally, they check, they keep a record, and they make sure that you accept it. They take the acknowledgement that you have received the draft and you agreed to the accuracy of the document and it is verified by them. So you as the customer has also accepted the product and you are happy. And there was a key performance indicator that this will be given to you in say 15 minutes time. And you are delighted that your product, which is the draft itself from the bank, came in 15 minutes time. So the product could be service as well. This is how release of the product and services can be audited. So you as an auditor look at all these inputs, all the sources of inputs, all the activities are done in right, whether the controls are in place, whether the person who has issued the release is authorized, and whether the output is correct and it goes to the right receiver. It could be the next process. It could be the customer. I hope this is very clear.